Hello everyone and welcome to another video on the channel, and it's been a while and I apologize for that, but I have been watching stuff, and that also includes some TV shows. So we're going to have some TV reviews in the next couple of weeks, one including The Haunting of Bly Manor, which should be coming out very soon to kick off my 13 Days of Halloween series I do every year. I cannot wait to get that started, but that is not what this video is. We are talking about The Boys Season 2. That is right, I watched Season 1 and I was very much a fan of Season 1. However, I had one huge issue with that show, that first season. The first time I watched it, which kind of went away the second time I watched it, which was I found none of the characters, not a single one of them likable, besides maybe Karl Urban's tough, gritty, sarcastic character that he plays in this show, which I still love him very much in both seasons, and I think he is by far the shining bright spot in this show. Besides the guy who plays Homelander, I think he is also perfect in the show, but besides those two characters, I find everybody else fairly unlikable, and rewatching the first season kind of helped that a little bit. I found Hughie very annoying, and I really was frustrated with how easily he forgot about Robin, where the opening of that show is Robin getting ran through and killed, and it's super brutal and super gruesome, and he just kind of gets over it really fast, and it's just like no big deal. Now he's with Starlight, and all these different things happen, and it just felt a little too quick. No pun intended with the whole A-Train running through his girlfriend, but it did. It seemed a little bit quick, but, that kind of went away after I watched the show the second time in preparation for this next season, and I really thought that the first season was very solid, and so it kind of pains me to say that this season was not nearly as good. I still very much enjoyed it. I thought it was a good season of TV, but most people are raving about it, and I just didn't see that. And I will be getting to spoilers in this video since I think most people have their spoiler-free reviews out already, so let's just get into spoilers for this. But I think my real main issue of this season is that it really did focus on the characters, but it didn't really seem like the show knew exactly where it was going, and it felt like they kind of had to come up with some side stories that they had to kind of build up in order to get to where they want to go with season 3, and it just kind of felt like this show, like a lot of superhero movies do, has sequelitis, and it's not the type of thing where everything has to be bigger and better. The show definitely kept the same tone, and it didn't try to be too much bigger than it was. I mean, this is a low-budget Amazon, or not low-budget, but I mean, this is, I don't think this is super high-budget, so this is like medium to high-budget superhero show on TV, and you can feel that. The fight choreography is not great, especially in the season finale. There's one scene with the three ladies, all badass characters, beating up on Stormfront, which was very funny. I thought when they're all just kicking the shit out of her on the floor, I thought that was really funny. But in terms of, it was just kind of silly. Like, the fight choreography in that was not great. I loved the moment. I thought it was really funny. And I love those three characters finally coming together in the end. But at the same time, it looked really goofy. But like I said, I felt like this show didn't really have an idea of where it was going. So they added the whole Stormfront thing to kind of veer away from what they wanted to do with Homelander. Because I feel like they've always wanted Homelander to snap. And I saw one gif of Homelander, lasering people down in a crowd. And I thought that was actually going to happen. I was so excited. And then it happens. And it was just in his mind. And so they're really holding back on Homelander, where I think this show can have Homelander come out as being a terrible, cruel, just awful person, and they can have that finally come out, yet they seem a little bit too afraid to, because I think they think once he does come out as this terrible person, they won't know where else to go with the show besides, having him get taken down. And I think you can have him come out as this terrible person and still have him be very much the villain of the show and not get rid of him, because who is going to do anything against Homelander? The sheer fear of this character is going to be too much for the entire show to, be able to say, okay, we need to get rid of him now because he finally came out as this huge bad guy to the public, which they kind of teased so many times throughout the season, and yet at the very end it still doesn't happen, which is very frustrating, because that's where I thought they were going at the end of season 1, especially having the son being introduced. I thought they were really going to get into Homelander being the true big bad of this season, and he still really wasn't. Stormfront was a great character, and I really liked her addition, and this show is very much a satirical look on our country through superheroes and how they are formed in this corporation. I thought season 1 did that very well, a little less so, but they really hammered home that satirical type of tone that they had in the first season really well in this one. I thought that worked really well. I just really wanted them to kind of get to the point, because there are a lot of side stories. The whole storyline with the church and the Deep and A-Train, I thought they just did not know what in the world they were doing with those characters. They had nothing to do in this season. And same thing with the whole Lamplighter thing. I thought what they were doing with Lamplighter was really cool, but this show decides to kill all these characters that are starting to become interesting, and they just kill them off. because they come to a point where they don't really know what they're going to do with this character. And I thought they were going to a really cool place about this character who, you know, he was against the Seventh first. He was kind of the source that was giving the boys their information before, you know, Lamplighter had that incident where he killed that one agent's children, and like this horrific event that really damaged him. And I thought, okay, now we're really getting into a deep character, and then he just kind of lights himself on fire at the end of that one episode, and just that whole thing was over. And that just kept on kind of happening with these characters, like the doctor who raised Homelander. They kind of built him up to, you know, go into the courts and testify against Congress, and then his head explodes out of nowhere, and a bunch of people's heads explode that didn't really matter. And it just seemed like they were afraid to really focus in on the main issues, and they kind of wanted to stretch it out to one more season. Like, okay, we had this cool idea with Stormfront, let's do her idea first, and then we'll get into Homelander later. And it just felt like they were pushing it off on the side. And I thought that really was the most frustrating thing about this show. However, this season really does dive into the side characters much more, which I liked very, very much. I thought Mother's Milk had a lot more to do in this season. He had a lot of more backstory, and I loved how they ended his character in the season, finally being able to go back to his family that he was so wanting to be with throughout the first season, and that entire element was kind of taken away, and it showed a kind of more deeper side behind him and his motivations with you know, the way he grew up. And I thought that was awesome that they got into some of that stuff. Same thing with MAEVE. I thought MAEVE was the best part of this season because, you know, you always felt that kind of hint that she was Starlight gone down the wrong path, where Starlight chose to kind of stay that positive, you know, there's hope in this world type character. MAEVE had kind of completely lost it all, and by the end of the season, you finally see her fight back against Stormfront, which was awesome to see. I loved that. And then you have Frenchie and KIMIKO, and I think they were just kind of, again, pushed off on the side. You know, she had a lot of cool stuff at the beginning with her brother, but then, of course, they just killed off the brother. Like, they didn't know what to do with that character, so they just killed him off, and then had KIMIKO kind of have this kind of PTSD from that moment facing Stormfront, what she gets over by the end of the season, and when they all, you know, kick her when she's down. But it just seemed like yet another side plot that was just kind of brushed off on the side. And then you have Hughie and Starlight and their little back and forth relationship again, and it just, and then of course you had Karl Urban's character and his wife and the son and all these different things with that. It just felt like it felt very disconnected. It felt like the boys were all separated throughout the majority of the season, and they came together at the end. But I kind of, and again at the end of the show, you know, they all come back together to, you know, do that huge final mission, but then they all split up again by the end of the show, and Hughie's working with Miss Head blowing up her, I don't know, this character just kind of came out of nowhere, and I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with her character. I have no idea what they're going to do with that, but it could be interesting. Again, a satirical look at how she's kind of growing into Congress and how she had to do these terrible things to get into that spot, and that could be very interesting to see in the next season. But I hope she's not the next big bad and they push Homelander off to the side again, because obviously we know we have that ransom video that Homelander now knows that MAEVE has, so how is he going to work around to try to destroy that video? I'm really hoping that they do the same thing what they did with this season with the whole Compound V, where, you know, there's the whole point of this first season was to kind of get out Compound V, and it never happens in the first season. And so we get into season 2, and like after 3 episodes, it's now out there in the world, and it kind of seemed a little easy to do that, but it's out there now. And so I'm hoping with season 3, they kind of get that video with Homelander out there as soon as possible so they can really get to that storyline, because that's what I really want to see, and I think that's what everybody wants to see. And I don't think if, you know, he comes out being an evil, terrible person to the public, that does not mean you have to get rid of him right after that happens. I think that fear, like I said, can really hold over everybody, and you can really deal with that. So that's where I hope that they go with season 3. Also, I forgot to kind of dive into this with the whole with Butcher and his wife ended up dying, and how Butcher, I was really hoping that he would keep his son and actually try to raise him, because I think that would be the most interesting thing you could do with Butcher's character, is have him, because he's been so against the Supes this entire time, and now he has to raise a Supe, and has to raise this kid to be good, even after the traumatic event where he kills his mom, which is very traumatic, and it's a very damning thing for that kid. And I really wanted them to deal with that, but no, he just ships the kid off. So who knows how much of a role that kid is going to have next season. I really hope he has a role with Butcher, but who knows at this point. And so overall, my takeaways of The Boys season 2 is I really, really enjoyed it. I did not think it was as great as the first season. I had a lot of issues with this season, just kind of feeling separated, and a whole lot of subplots that it felt like they didn't really know what to do with. And by the end of it, it felt that separated once again, and they're all going to have to get the boys back together again in season 3. So, I don't know. Hopefully this show doesn't get stuck in an endless loop. I really hope Homelander gets to do his thing, because I've been waiting. That actor is so good as his character, and I've been waiting for him to really get out there and just do terrible things out in public without a care in the world. Because right now, he has a care about his public image, but once that's gone, he's completely unhinged. So I hope they go towards that type of character with him eventually. It just was not this season. So thanks guys for watching this video. Like I said, 13 Days of Halloween will be starting very soon, kicking off with The Haunting of Bly Manor, which, spoiler alert, I loved it. I cannot wait to talk about it. I'm actually going to talk about it right after recording this video. So guys, subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you like this video, comment below what you guys thought of The Boys Season 2. I know I'm probably one of the more negative people on this season versus most people who loved it, but yeah, that's just my opinion. So let me know yours down in the comments below, and I hope to see you all in my next one.